Hey guys, it's Vanderbosch here. So the temperature is finally starting to reach the 60s and 70s, and I figured now is a good time to do my oil change. I'm not really going to get into the best oils or what filter, the exact filter you should use. I'll give you the part number I'm using, but I know that there's plenty of threads out there that kind of do the back and forth on types of oils and what time of the year you should use one oil versus the other. I kind of stick with the same stuff that I've been running since I bought the van. So kind of the things you'll need is, obviously something to catch the oil. I like this just because it is also the container, so I won't have to, empty it into another thing. This is the kind of oil that I normally use, the Delvac 1300 Super 15W40. You need 2 of these, and this is 3.78 liters. The van takes roughly 6.5, I think, when you do an oil change. So I get both of these. I also grab some sort of measuring device, and this has like the liter measurements on the inside. You really don't need that if you can kind of use these like side markings, but I've overfilled it and it's a pain to bring it back, get it back out, so I just measure it. It's easier for me. They also, the plug at the bottom for draining the oil out, you need the MD050317, kind of like the crush washers. Oh, gasket, I just spilled them all over the damn place. You might be able to reuse yours. I just don't even mess around with it and replace it because, you take the time to do the oil change. You might as well just go all the way through it. Then the last bit that I like to use is the Napa Gold Filter 1067. I haven't gone to Napa and them not have a filter in stock, so I don't know if I've been lucky, but this seems to be doing pretty good. So I know every once in a while I'll go and buy one just so that I have some on hand when I do my oil change. But really, that's the only supplies you need to do an oil change. It's pretty quick and pretty easy. I've already got the van running. I went for a little cruise, got it up to operating temperature, and she's been sitting for 5-10 minutes. So all the oil should be pretty light. At the bottom, it should drain pretty fast. I'm gonna get the container underneath the van, take out the plug, and then we'll start the process. I'm not gonna assume you know where the drain plug is. If you go right behind the right side of the van, behind the wheel, and go underneath here, the drain plug is, I don't know if you can see that, right here. It's 17 millimeter, and luckily that new oil pan guard that I put on in the last video has a hole for draining. Hopefully that doesn't get very messy. It depends on how far that oil squirts out, but you just need a 17 millimeter. Take this off, let it drain, and then go to the top of the engine and open up the cap on the engine. I'll show you that next. So after you get that plug off, it'll start draining. Be a little careful because I ended up taking a longer cruise than I should have, and she was pretty hot, so just be prepared to get out of the way quick. Now that that's off, I'm gonna go to the top of the engine like I said. I already popped open the seat and take this cap off. Alright, set it right here for now. So I'll let that drain for a bit and we'll go from there. So one thing that happened to me one of the first times I did the oil change is the crush washer was so crushed onto this plug that I didn't even know it was there, and then I put another crush washer on top of it. So just be sure to take off the old crush washer. It could be stuck here on the plug, or it could be stuck on the oil pan. So make sure that's off. I'm going to take off this old one and put a new one on, and I'm going to clean the surface of the oil pan off where this is going to mate, just to make sure that there's no dirt or debris that's going to prevent this from sealing correctly.
So if you're looking at the oil plug in that bar that comes across, the oil filter is located just up there. It's pretty hard to get at and the visibility is low. It should only be hand tightened, so it should be pretty easy to just kind of screw off. I'm gonna try to get it off by hand. If the hand doesn't work, there's a oil pipe wrench you could buy, or there's like a flathead method where you just like stick a flathead straight through it, unscrew it, but it gets messy doing that, and I usually just hand tighten it, so I think my hand should be just plenty of power to take that thing off. So we'll take that off and then go from there.
One thing I wanted to mention before you install the new filter, dip your finger in some of the new oil and make sure to cover the gasket and make sure that's all kind of covered. I think some people even try to fill up the oil filter a little bit. Sorry, I'm not even try to fill up the oil filter a little bit, but with the position you have to reach up into, the chances are it's just gonna pour all over you anyways. So at least get some oil on this gasket, make sure it's nice and oiled up. I did reach up there and try to clean the mating surface between this and the block. It's already tight just to get my hand up there, so it's kind of hard to get a good view of it from with the camera. I mean, I can still try, I guess.
So obviously it was up there, but if I turn, so that's the mating surface. Actually, now that I'm doing this, it's actually a good way of seeing it, since you really can't see it easily. Using your phone or a camera is kind of a good way, but trying to clean that mating surface around there, make sure there's not any, like, you know, foreign particles that can screw up that seal. I tried to clean that up with like a lint-free cloth, and this is kind of where it's at right now. So I'm gonna take that new filter, reach up and try to get it on that threaded portion right there. And it is a little difficult, and it does sometimes take multiple tries because you're kind of working blindly when you're putting that oil filter back on. So let's try it out.
So yeah, after you get the oil filter snug, hand tight, and the oil plug, make sure you put the oil plug back in with the new crush washer. Now it's time to fill it up. So I have a funnel here. I'm gonna put about 6.5 liters in using those measuring cups I showed earlier. I'm going to, as I get close, I'm gonna start checking the dipstick, which is this one, I think, down here. I'm gonna start checking the dipstick and just make sure that I'm not overfilling it. And when I'm done with that, we'll move on to the next step. So after you fill it up with the 6.5 liters about, run it for a couple minutes, watch to see if the oil, I think the oil pressure light might turn on. Make sure that goes away in like 5-6 seconds. Just let it kind of idle, don't step on it during this time period. And then when you're done with that, go and check the oil. If you are a little bit low, then just top it off. If you're good, you can just leave it. So I'm gonna start her up, let her run for a little bit, check the oil, and then make sure that she's at the right levels. So after the vans ran for a little bit, give it a minute or two for the oil to settle, then check your dipstick and make sure you're at your correct levels. If you're low, add some more in. If you're too high, then, well, there's techniques to getting it back out. I'm not going to get into that. I had to do it before in the past. Luckily this time I haven't had to do it. I'm going to drive it around and come back, let it sit for a little bit, and then check the dipstick again. And then for the next couple of days, I'll be checking the dipstick. Another thing to note is while you're letting it run for that first time, quickly jump in or underneath and check the oil filter, check the plug, make sure no oil is coming out of that or spilling on the ground. You might have, the crush washer might not be seated correctly, the gasket on the oil filter might not be good. So check those two spots just to make sure that you're not losing oil when you're doing that initial run. And usually, I mean, I'm a paranoid person, so after I do an oil change, I'll kind of double, triple, quad check throughout the next couple of days, everything, make sure everything's still good. But yeah, that's how you change the oil on the Delica. Now that the temperature is better, hopefully I can post more videos. I have a few gauge additions I'd like to do, and yeah, So stay tuned, subscribe, like, do whatever you want to do, because I'll be posting more videos now that I'm not freezing my ass off in the shop. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time.